was so sweltering hot that the Finn woman herself was almost naked. She was a little woman and rather grubby. She at once undid little Gerda's clothes, took off her mittens and boots, put a lump of ice on the reindeer's head, and read the message that was written on the dry cod. She read it 3 times, and then, knowing it by heart, put the fish in the cooking pot, for it was good to eat, and she never wasted anything. The reindeer then told it first its own story, and next little Gerda's, the Finn woman blinking her wise eyes, but never saying anything. "You are so wise," said the reindeer. "I know you can tie all the winds of the world in sewing thread, so that when the captain undoes one knot, he gets a fair wind, while if he does the second, a rough wind rises, and if he undoes the third and fourth, it blows a gale and flattens the forest. Won't you give the little girl a drink, so she'll have the strength of 10 men and will overcome the Snow Queen?" "The strength of 10 men," said the Finn woman. "Well, that should do it." And going to a shelf, she took a large roll of skin which she opened out. Strange letters were written on it, and the Finn woman read till the sweat poured from her forehead. But the reindeer begged so hard for little Gerda, and Gerda looked so pleadingly at the Finn woman, with her eyes full of tears, that the woman began blinking her eyes again, and drew the reindeer into a corner, where she whispered to it, while putting fresh ice on its head. "Little Kay is with the Snow Queen, sure enough, and there he finds everything to his heart's content, and thinks it's the best place in the world. But that's because he's got a splinter of glass in his heart, and a bit of glass in his eye. They'll have to come out first, or he'll never be human again, and the Snow Queen will have him in her power. But can't you give little Gerda something to take, so that she'll have the power over things?" "I can't give her any greater power than she already has. Don't you see how great it is? Don't you see how human beings and animals are forced to serve her, and how well she has got on in the world in her bare feet? She hasn't to learn of power from us. It's in her heart. In her heart. She's a sweet and innocent child. If she can't find her way to the Snow Queen and get the glass out of little Kay, then we can't help her. 10 miles from here is the beginning of the Snow Queen's garden. You can carry the little girl there. Put her off by the big bush which stands bearing red berries in the snow. Don't stand gossiping, but hurry back here." And so, saying, the Finn woman lifted little Gerda onto the reindeer, which ran off as fast as its little legs would carry it. "Oh, I didn't get my boots. I didn't get my mittens," cried little Gerda. In the biting cold, she could feel that she hadn't. But not daring to stop, the reindeer ran on until it came to a big bush with the red berries. There it put Gerda off and kissed her on the lips, while big glistening tears rolled down from the creature's cheeks. There it ran as fast as its legs would carry back again, and there stood poor Gerda, without shoes, without gloves, in the middle of dreadful icy cold Finnmark. She ran on as fast as she could, and soon met a whole regiment of snowflakes. But they didn't fall from the sky that was perfectly clear and was gleaming with the northern lights. The snowflakes were running along the ground, and nearer they came, bigger they grew. Gerda remembered how big and strange they had looked at the time she had seen them through the burning glass. But here they were, far, far bigger and more frightening. They were alive. They were the Snow Queen's sentries. They had the strangest of shapes. Some looked ugly, like ugly black hedgehogs. Others, like masses of writhing snakes, all sticking out of their heads. And others, again, like fat little bears with bristly hair, and all shining white, all live snow. And now Gerda said her prayers, and the cold was so fierce that she could see her own breath. It rose from her